All right, recently in the news is everyone's favorite doctor, everyone's favorite scientist, Bill Gates. He is now changing his position on the belief that climate change is an utter catastrophe that we have to react to immediately. Now, what is prompting this change? Well, that's interesting, and I can speculate on that. But the thing is that he has, basically been over the years a big cheerleader for, cutting back on emissions. He's called for getting rid of cows or changing them in some way, either genetically altering them or changing how they interact with the environment. He has talked about blotting out the sun, by spraying particles in the atmosphere. He's had a whole bunch of sort of insane ideas over the years. And, he may be one of the most vilified people on planet Earth. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that he's this, super wealthy guy. He's a multi-billionaire. Many people are just jealous of people that have, lots and lots of money, and that's not unusual. But again, some of these policies that he has suggested over the years, given that his background is basically, kind of a computer guy, a computer nerd, he doesn't really have any, advanced training when it comes to human nutrition, human health, or any of those things. And a lot of people resent a lot of his commentary on that. Now, I'm going to speculate a bit on what may be the underlying reason for his shift on this. Did he perhaps start listening to millions of people that think he's full of crap when it comes to climate change stuff? Did he read, perhaps Alex Epstein's book entitled Fossil Future, where he describes how, there's like 10 times as many people that die from cold every year than do to warm. And that, fossil fuels have allowed us to better deal with the consequence of climate, and that we've saved, millions and millions of lives by having access to available, cheap power. Perhaps this is what's changed his mind. But no, honestly, I think what's changed his mind is the political climate has changed significantly. We've seen here in the United States a shift away from sort of emphasizing, climate catastrophe. We see that in many countries in Europe now. We're seeing that in parts of South America. Of course, China's never cared one bit the whole time. They just keep building coal plants and nuclear plants and, getting as much energy as possible. So I think the reality is set on him that, hey, the political will is not really where he wants to be. And like any super wealthy person, it's about making money, right? So when the sort of climate change was at its peak, sort of interest, and when all the climate catastrophists that we're talking about, we got to save the world. We've only got a few years, or everyone's going to die, or suddenly the Maldives are going to be underwater, or something like that. That was going on. People are making a lot of money off of this. I mean, anytime there's big shifts or beliefs or catastrophes or emergencies, people profit immensely from that. And I think a lot of people profited off of some of this climate related stuff. Now, what's going on now is that, now that the political will has shifted, the thought is, well, we can make money elsewhere. You guys all know that, AI is starting to take over a lot of things, and AI is incredibly energy intensive. All these huge data centers that AI will utilize requires massive amounts of energy inputs, whether that comes from coal or natural gas or nuclear power. We're going to see a big shift towards a lot of that stuff coming up. As you guys know, that Bill Gates also was heavily invested in, fake meat, these plant-based meats and so on and so forth. He had a YouTube video with a fairly famous YouTuber, an ex-NASA scientist guy, I can't remember his name, but we're talking about him, eating and trying out his fake meats. These, by and large, these fake meat companies largely went out of business. You can look at the Beyond Meat, stock ticker and see how horrible that company is about to file bankruptcy very soon, most likely. People have largely rejected this ultra-processed garbage. And then the lab-grown meat, which is another thing that's on the horizon. I'll share my thoughts on that in another video that'll be coming out soon. This is something that I think has been something that I've kind of taken some level of pleasure to see, because I think it's complete nonsense. I think meat is a health food, and more people should be eating more of it. We need more cows, not less. But anyway, that is one, sort of, venture where Bill Gates has failed miserably, which I'm personally happy to see. Like I said, I don't necessarily wish people unwell, but I mean, again, when it comes to causing more harm than good, then we have to think about that. Now, in my opinion, I think this signifies a significant shift. A lot of people, kind of write Bill Gates off as this kind of crazy, evil Bond villain.
Rig an election in Uganda, all to the highest bidder.
Or a gas explosion in London.
He does yield a lot of influence in the world, and to see someone like that shift his stance, will probably, lead on to a bigger knock-on effect across all the people that sort of, work in lockstep with that. So I think we're going to see less of a, climate panic, different policies coming out. And I think that, one of the things, and I'll go back to this Alex Epstein book, talks about human flourishing. And, we want to think about things in the context of how do we make human beings have a better experience, throughout their lives on planet Earth, and also without destroying the planet. I will have to say, I do agree that I think pollution is a problem. It's not, particularly a good situation. I can remember when I was in the Galapagos Islands last year, and I was swimming around in the middle of the ocean, and there was, plastic junk in there when I'm trying to look around seeing the fish. And so that's a real problem. We do have to figure out what to do with all the trash we produce. I think some of the things that we are doing are harming the planet in ways that it's just not pleasant to be here. Now, do I think that we're going to outcompete the sun for changing the weather? I don't think so. I don't think that's likely possible. Unlike Bill Gates, I'm not an expert in everything in the world. I will defer to people that have more insight on that than I do, and because I can't independently verify that. I can, I'm pretty happy about talking about health and how to assess health, and it's something that you can individually verify yourself. But some of this climate stuff, some of these other things are like, who knows? Who knows the answer? I mean, it's like you just have to, what expert do you like to listen to? Anyway, so Bill Gates changing his mind, I suppose. Is it a true, I read more science type of thing, I've sort of listened to the counter arguments, or is it more just political expediency and, figuring out how I can make money in this new political climate? I'll leave you to decide what it is. Share your comments. Let me know what you think. One last thing I'll put in there. If you guys would like to help us make a difference when it comes to changing the way we do healthcare, check out what we're doing at Revero.com. We are currently in the middle of a fundraiser. If you want to invest in what we're doing, becoming part owner in Revero by going to republic.com/Revero. The links are both below, because I think we're going to significantly change the way healthcare is done in this country. And I think this is incredibly important. It's an important mission of mine. And I think, the results thus far speak for themselves. Check out what we're doing. Check out our results. See if you'd like to support us. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to go eat a steak. Take care.